Okay guys, in this video we are returning to the old world, which you know has a very special place in my heart. Now, what I'm going to be doing in today's video is I'm taking Tzarketh, Bane of Law, which is one of the new commemorative miniatures that came out this year, and I'm going to be painting him up for my Warriors of Chaos army for the old world. He's supposed to be part of a Slaves of Darkness army for Age of Sigmar, but I don't really play Slaves of Darkness in Age of Sigmar, but I'm very much all armies in the old world, so that's where this guy is going to end up. A huge thank you to Underworld Gaming for sending this piece out for me to be able to build and paint for today's video. If you want to check them out, I will link their website down below. They're a local independent stockist here in Ireland, and they run all sorts of amazing events and have loads of like guest painters and stuff for painting sessions and lessons and all sorts. Very cool place. You should check out all the details down below. Before I get into this video though, I do want to say a huge thank you to all of my active patrons. Without you guys, I could not continue doing what I'm doing. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. If you want to get involved with that, help support the channel, help it grow to bigger and greater heights, that is all linked down below in the description, and you can check out which tier suits you best. All right guys, without further ado, let's dive in, get this awesome model painted. Okay, so this is of course Tzarketh, the Bane of Law, or just Bane of Law. Once again, he's from the Warhammer commemorative series. Now, I have been doing a thing on the channel for the last couple of months where every time one of these kind of miniatures comes on, I just do him. Like I said, I've got so many of these awesome miniatures in my backlog now that it's going to take so long to get through them, and I don't know why I didn't do them when they came out. So I'm currently fighting my way through this awesome backlog of characters, and I'm trying not to have anything add to it. So once this guy hit my desk, it was time to get stuck in and get him built and painted. So obviously I did get him built. I got him sprayed Chaos Black, and then of course the Zenithal of Grey Seer. Got a whole spray video if you want to check out how I did that. And then we're going to start with Lead Belcher, and we're just going to start blocking in all the bits on this model, which are silver, which is of course his chainmail, his huge big chest plate. He's got some kind of hip armor, there's some shoulder armor, and his elbows are kind of tucked in his robes, but they are there as well. And of course parts of his helmet as well. Now he's got a huge awesome like skull on the top half of his helmet, and then the horns come sprouting out of that. So make sure you get the right bits in silver and leave the other bits for the bone. This guy will of course be added to my new Warriors of Chaos army, which is one of the few old world armies that I'm personally doing that aren't based on old miniatures. As it currently stands, I'm doing old world by kind of rebuilding and repainting all of my old kind of wrecked armies I didn't take care of before, and I'm trying to get them looking really nice. Except for Warriors of Chaos, I am very much getting all of the beautiful new Slaves of Darkness miniatures, and I'm putting them on square base and making them rank up, and so far they look incredible. Super happy with the force. I just got to find some time to get some more paint on them. So getting a Sorcerer done for that force is obviously going to feel very, very nice. So as you can see, I am just going through the process of getting some base coats on that. We got silver, we got our Black Templar for the kind of underrobes and cloth. And we've got some Wildwood now for all of the straps, his belt, and any other kind of like little extra things. He's got like a necklace around his neck. You can do a bit of brown contrast if you want to as well. There's some pouches, but I'm going to do the pouches in a slightly lighter color. But you could choose to do them in a darker brown if you so choose. Skeleton Horde, of course, is then going to be brought in for the parchment on his awesome book. Now, my Warriors of Chaos army is going to be undivided. I'm not specifically, going to any god. They're not going to look like they're from Nurgle. They've got silver armor and black cloth. They're red capes. They're very traditional Warriors of Chaos. So this guy needs to fit in with this, but obviously he's a sorcerer. He has to kind of go with one of the gods so he can access their lore of magic. So I decided, why not go with the Sorcerer God? So this guy is going to be devoted to Tzeentch. I'm not going to do anything crazy to make him suit Tzeentch. He's just got a flaming book. So the back of the book is going to be painted blue. He's going to have big turquoise flames coming out of the book, coming out of the skull on his brand. And he's got a little vial on his hip as well, which I'm going to do in those same colors as well, just to give that kind of triangle of color, if you will. And that should hopefully indicate to anyone that's playing against me that he is, of course, the Mark of Tzeentch, using the lore of Tzeentch to play the old world. Time for the red capes, which I'm really, really enjoying painting. I found my rhythm for painting red capes. I think I'm doing a fairly good job of getting them done, and they look kind of awesome. And my Warriors of Chaos big blocks, when they're kind of marching away from me, you see all those awesome fur kind of up over the shoulders and the crimson cloaks. They look so cool. So I'm very happy to be doing that and adding this guy to the army with the same color cloak, so he matches in really nicely. You got to be super careful with the cloak around this guy because obviously there's quite a lot of detail on the fur. like a lot of bone carvings on a string going across the back of his furs. There's even a dead rat skeleton coming off of the furs as well, so make sure you don't accidentally paint over that. Snakebite leather is what I'm going to use for this model's particular fur. Obviously, when you're doing Warriors of Chaos Army, like the armor is going to be all the same color and the cloth is mostly going to be the same color. The furs, God only knows which beasts these guys have slain to festoon their shoulders with awesome pelts of fur. So you can go crazy and do all sorts of colors. They could be all different colors across the entire army, and I'm fairly sure it would still look awesome. We're now coming up to kind of all of the base coats being on it. We just have to do kind of the gold left. I have unfortunately taken a little bit of a dip in the old world content over the last couple of months. I do apologize for that. Anyone that has been waiting patiently for me to get to more content on it. I very much went all in as soon as it was out. And I kind of let some other videos slide and some other content that I should have paid attention to slide. So I had to readjust my course and do a little bit more 40k and Age of Sigmar and stuff. But that has not stopped me or slowed me down from doing old world stuff myself. And I'm very much still the game system that I'm enjoying playing the most. Very much intend to continue playing. So here is, like I said, the gold detail going in. We're going to do the entire head of his staff, minus the skull and the flames, obviously. Obviously the spike on the bottom of the staff. All the little details and, you know, the trim on the armor, all of his little medallions, his belt buckle. Any other awesome bits like that we're going to do in gold. There's also some detail on the spine of the book in his hand, which we also did in gold. Ultramarines blue is what I'm going to be using for the back of the book. Once again, just to tie into that idea of it being a Tzeentch sorcerer. Maybe this guy found a Tzeentch lore book out in the Chaos Waste, and that's what turned him from a Chaos Warrior to a Chaos Sorcerer. He's been following that path ever since. This book has not left his side since he found it. And obviously he's starting to grasp the true power within as it's bursting into flames in front of him, which I think looks pretty cool. The Acalian green is what I'm going to use to base coat in that kind of Tzeentchian magic color. Obviously the flames coming off the skull are awesome, and the out of the book is also awesome. This is a beautiful color. It's really, really nice, really standoutish, and it's going to make this guy look, I think, have the right kind of Tzeentchy tone without going crazy with like blue trim and all that kind of stuff on his armor. Okay, so this is the miniature with all the base coats ready to rock and roll. It's time to shade the model down now. So for this, we are going to just go for Nuln Oil, and we're going to give the entire model a coat of this. While this is drying, we are of course going to base the miniature. The traditional way that I base absolutely every single one of my old world armies is I use AK Interactive Dark Earth, and then I dry brush that with Ryza Rust, dry brush that with Bone. Very, very simple thing. It's very, very quick to do. It just gives a really nice, deep, rich color on the base. Obviously, you rim the base black. You can add some grass tufts onto it later on, but it's awesome. I decided not to mess around with any of my kind of army basing schemes. They're all going to have the same thing, so that when I go for my traditional old world style board, the armies will all match against each other, and I think that's really cool. Except for my Tomb Kings, of course, which I had to put on Desert because that's the law. Okay, Corvus Black is in now to highlight up the black cloth. I didn't want to leave it flat. If I was doing this for a block of my 18 warriors, for instance, I probably would have just gone with the Corvus Black and left it there. Because this guy is a character, I'm going to go for a little bit of a higher kind of detail. So I'm going to go for Skaven Blight Dinge and add an extra little highlight in on those kind of black robes. It's just really the sharpest details. A couple of scratchy, add a bit of texture. Nothing mental, but it will make that cloth and material pop a little bit more and look awesome. After that, I believe we do get to dive straight in and get some real work done on the cloth. So for that, we're going to go for a two-stage highlight, just like the black cloth. Mephiston Red being the first one. Following the contours and the folds in the cloth to decide where the highlights are going to go. Making sure all the deep recesses of the folds are where you leave the shadow and the shade and the darkness. And the brighter comes kind of out towards you. As you can see, I've got a fine pointed brush, sharp point. And I'm going in the same direction with the highlight all the time. I'm always pulling the brush towards my hand. None of this side-to-side stuff. It's going to leave kind of an awful texture. With this, I do get that sharp, like I said, scratchy texture that I'm looking for across the model. We're going to jump up to not Evil Sun Scarlet. We're going to jump up to Wild Rider Red now for the final highlight on the cape. I've avoided using this quite a lot, but I've only recently started to delve in properly with the extreme highlights, which don't look right next to each other in kind of pots of paint. But when you do kind of give yourself a break and give it a try, it does sit and it does work really well across the cape. The trick is to not go overboard. You really are looking to go Very minimal on the amount of orange, or wild red or red, that you're putting in that model. It's definitely an orange, not a red. And you want to be careful not to have too much of it, and you want to push the red into the orange spectrum. Whereas if you use the kind of the right amount, it will just highlight the cape really nicely, and it just looks awesome. Catachan Flesh is a color I often lean to highlight wildwood in order to highlight all my leathers and straps and stuff like that. It's a very quick thing, and once again, the thing I discovered a long time ago. There didn't seem to be a layer brown which worked for me for leather, so that's where the Catachan Flesh came in, and it's been working a treat ever since. Obviously, the model is really starting to come together now. I'm very pleased with him so far. I can see the vision of where he's going to go. Carrick Stone was then brought in. I know it says air on the pot. Everyone always asks me. I always have to say it in every video I use one of these paints. I use a bunch of air paints as standard paints because they're just basically pre-thinned paints. As long as they're like not yellows or whites, which would just be too thinned as it is, too weak a pigment. Things like bones and reds and greens all work great as air paints for just straight out of the pot. So that's what I'm doing here. And as you can see, I'm doing scratchy highlights across all the bone work, the paper on the book, and the kind of gnarlwood staff that he's going. I decided to give that kind of like a bone texture as well. And then of course, spending a little bit of time on the cool kind of skull helmet that he has to make sure to give that a nice highlight. Make that stand out. Obviously the carved bone effigies across his back got done as well. Ironbreaker was then introduced as the highlight for all of the metallics. That's both the silver chest piece and all of the gold trim. Just using a little bit of touch highlighting there across those pieces to make them pop and stand out. Nothing crazy to it. This is, of course, one of those times where I'm so pleased with the result of this guy that it's encouraged me to want to go back and like start painting more of the Warriors of Chaos. I'm kind of very much in an in-between stage now of what I should paint for my old world. I don't have any real active old world projects, which probably should change. And as you can see, using that silver to highlight the gold as well really makes it all pop and look awesome. We are coming in on the final stages of the miniature now. There's not a lot left to do. We of course have to highlight his Tzeentchian flames. So for this, I'm going to use Thousand Suns Blue. And like again, I'm just going to have that scratchy highlight all across the tips of the flames, just to make it pop off the pages of the book and of course off the top of his staff. I don't want to go overboard. I don't want to try anything crazy. I don't want it to steal the focus away from the rest of the model. So I think this is the kind of right amount of highlighting. You could go up again. There's like Temple Guard Blue. There's another one in that has a Thousand Suns name. Now I'm forgetting the name of it, which you could go another layer again, but I decided to leave it as it is. A little bit more muted. You get the idea, I think. And that kind of works for me. The last step on this miniature is we're going to add Talazar Blue contrast into his eye sockets. So when I was doing the Ironbreaker highlight on the silver, I did paint his pupils in with that bright silver so that I could throw a Talazar Blue on top of it. And once again, add another color of that kind of Tzeentchian blue glowing through his eyes out of his book and staff, which I think really does sell the idea that he is a Tzeentch Warriors of Chaos Sorcerer. With that done, we do have our finished model, apart from a few grass tufts, but I do that at the end of a project so they all match. I'm really happy with how he looks. Look how the cape looks, fur looks great. Silver, yep, super happy. I will show you a couple of still images to give you an example of what he might look like on the tabletop. And once again, it just feels great to be able to take the box and the instructionist model, throw them in the bin, just put this awesome model on the shelf with my Warriors of Chaos army, instead of trying to find a place on my shelf to put this box. Just waste of time, waste of space. Just glad to get it done. And I hope if you guys have one of these awesome commemorative models lying about, it encourages you to dig it out and get started. Okay guys, and there we have it. My new Sorcerer for my Warriors of Chaos army for the old world is now fully painted up and ready to join the ranks of that awesome horde. Very, very fun miniature to paint. I'm not really sure how easy he is to get his hands on, but I'm sure a bunch of you managed to pick him up when he was available and you put him in a pile to sit there gathering dust doing nothing. Well, this is my, I implore you, get the model out, get it built, and get some paint on it. There's no point having these awesome models sat in cupboards or forgotten under beds for years. Just Get them painted, you won't regret it. Right guys, thank you so much for sticking around at the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you give the video a like, ask me any questions you want in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed. It does cost you nothing, but it means everything to us. And of course, make sure you check out things like Patreon linked down below. I'll see you guys in the next video.